Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Another session here with your two favorite guys, Win and Drew, with Vertex Business Strategies, um, and our attempt at an entertaining podcast. So, um, how'd your week go, Win? You been all right?
Busy, busy. A lot of work, but a lot of personal stuff. Trying to balance it all, as you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. My oldest is trying to make the state playoff run in baseball, and if I'm being honest, probably not betting too heavy on him right now. But we'll uh, we'll save that for
Well,
another time. Anyway, how about you? What's new?
that's exciting. Well,
Yeah.
we raised some athletes apparently. So, my daughter is playing in the state championship for lacrosse on
Love it.
Saturday.
Love it.
Um, so that'll be that'll be an entertaining game. Um, but I had I'm a little dreary-eyed this morning. We had I'm the president of the board of directors for East Cooper Community Outreach.
Yeah.
And we had a big gala last night, and it was an incredible production. First time we've done it in a long time. Great turnout, raised a ton of money for a great cause. Um,
Where was
theme
it?
was it was downtown, the Hibernian.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
nice old historic building.
Yeah.
But his black tie. So I had to put on my gorilla suit, and we
Brackish.
yeah, I rocked the bow tie that your wife actually gave me for Christmas.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a James Bond theme, so it was uh 007 License to Give. So we
I
had
like that.
we had the Charleston Orchestra came in and they were playing the James Bond theme throughout the thing. We had casinos and um, but it was the team who I really had nothing to do with it. I just showed up and you know smiled. Um, but the team that put it together was incredible. Molly Hall is our legal chair, and she really spearheaded it.
Yeah.
And just knocked it out of the park. Everybody
I
was
love it.
raving about it. But so
You have flashbacks to playing GoldenEye back in high school with the theme music in the
no,
background.
see, I could never play that stupid game because I'm colorblind. So I always got killed within the first 5 seconds because everybody blended into the shadows.
I remember there
Screw.
were a couple of our buddies that were like really into it, and you try to play with them, and they had memorized every level and like knew everything about the damn game.
That's so
You couldn't
stupid.
do anything.
It's so stupid. I didn't
I
have
feel like you
time.
start off with a bomb in your pocket. You should
Yeah,
die.
I didn't have time for those stupid video games. Much less. At least that's what I tell myself because I couldn't see.
It's called a
Um,
sore loser.
yeah, no, maybe, or just a smart competitor.
I,
Stay out of
I've
stuff you
always
can't
thought the line.
win.
I'm not a sore loser. I just get really upset when I don't win.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So, but I
Um,
mean, I that you know, going back to the gala, um, it that one really it was so impressive, and there were tons of hurdles and tons of stumbling blocks getting through this, but again, it ties into I think what we wanted to touch on today is building the right team.
yeah.
That wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't have happened if just one person wanted to do it.
Sure.
Took a bunch of people to attack all the moving parts. But you know, that's one of your. I feel like your expertise is evaluating teams to determine, hey, do we have the right butts in the right seats? At
Yeah.
the end of the day, and a lot of times that people I think hire poorly, um, and so you're starting in a hole. And I know one of the most entertaining things that I get from you are your interview questions, like the way you interview. It's just putting people in an uncomfortable position right off the rip to see how they react. What's your philosophy on that? What and then give me some good interview questions or stories you got.
Yeah. I guess being responsible for hiring, I started off probably just like everybody else, and you know, looked up a lot of interview questions, and I was very vanilla or predictable and generic is maybe the way I would say it. And I quickly found that I wasn't getting any of the right information, any of the information I really wanted. And I guess that's probably as good of a place to start as anything. Is like, what are you looking for?
Hmm.
And I'll come back to this thought later on, but also I would just say start with you need to begin with identifying exactly what you're looking for and then go find it. I know I've fallen into this trap before of like I find a person and then I try to find a spot for them instead of really digging into and analyzing what spot do you need to fill and going and finding that person.
Right, right. So
Um,
are you putting more weight when you're looking for, all right, let's say you've identified I need one person in position A.
yeah,
Um, are you putting more weight when you're evaluating these candidates on personality or skill set? I mean, you really can't tell somebody's skill set until you actually see them work. They could tell you all the things that they're good at and everything that looks on paper, but until you actually see it in action, I guess it's tough to evaluate the true acumen of their proposed skill set.
yeah, I think it depends on the role for sure. And so sometimes I do have a pretty good idea of their skill set and what they actually do because I know some of their customers and they've gotten recommendations or I've worked with them in the past. There's a lot of that kind of thing. So I can find out a decent amount of information, but some of the things you're looking for. I know for a long time one of my biggest things that I was trying to find in an interview process is like drive and ability to self motivate and those kind of things. It's very difficult. And so now these days, like I'll say that I'm looking for that, but
Mhm.
I'll also say that I know that you can trick me in this process. And so it sort
Yeah,
of disarms them,
right,
right?
right.
Like I know I can't figure this out.
Right. So
Um,
I mean, I think that kind of leads into what I was talking about, the way you interview,
yes.
it is to really, everybody has they do their interview prep and they're prepared to, strengths, weaknesses. Give me a weakness, and now you turn a weakness into a positive and all that, generic bullshit.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
bored.
yeah,
I'm bored in that.
yeah. It doesn't give you any insight. Like I don't want to hire
No.
somebody that I don't want to work with, that I don't, you know, and again, it's not all about being liked but I don't want to hire somebody that I don't like. He
Right.
may be the best controller in the world, but I can't stand his personality. Like
Right.
that's not a good success, formula for success.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially hiring salespeople, likability is way up there. I think the ability to come off as genuine is way up there for me. And there's different kind of sales. So what I'm typically looking for is someone who can hold a long term relationship with our customers, not just go in and sell one time and be a slick talker, so to speak. I'd rather lean heavily on the genuineness of that person and their ability to follow up and their ability to maintain consistency throughout their career.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, in the medical world, we're put in some very awkward situations, high stakes and high stress and all that kind of thing. So I try to put those guys through the ringer a little bit socially because we deal with some geniuses as customers, and that's not hyperbolic. That's real. And so, like these guys can twist you in a pretzel if they want to.
Oh yeah.
And so I try to recreate some of that. Some of the basic things that I do is really interesting. I think of I'll start off an interview speaking very quickly and asking sort of some rapid fire questions, and we have this dialogue that's at a quick pace,
Uh,
and then I'll stop, and then I'll have a lot of dead space, and I'll see what you do with that dead space,
hmm.
and it's it's almost to see how comfortable you can be in being uncomfortable a little bit.
Right.
And
So you just after you hit them with these rapid fire questions, you just stop and stare at them? Or are you looking down?
sometimes,
Or are you?
sometimes I act like I'm thinking. Sometimes I'll take some notes. Sometimes I'll tell them that I don't want them to answer right now, but I want them to ask them a deeper question. Just sort of change the pace of everything and make it more uncomfortable, either with pace and cadence of the conversation or
Mhm.
with subject matter. So like you're just sort of toying with them the whole time just to see what how comfortable they are almost sitting in silence. And I almost like to go negative when I do the silence part and see how they squirm,
Yeah,
if that
yeah.
makes any sense.
I
So
mean, do you
the
find? Go ahead.
these are very specific things to what I'm looking for, right? I don't know that I would, if I'm trying to hire a janitor, I'm not doing any of this stuff, right?
Right, right.
But if I'm trying to find someone who's going to be, you know, a leader in my company, I want someone who's going to be able to hold up,
And I think that that's the important element, right? Is, you talked about identifying the position that is needed, that you need to fill
right?
versus, oh, I like this guy. Let me find a place for him in the organization or try and plug them in there and their skill sets don't work. But I think in in the interview prep, you as the interviewer need to identify what am I looking for in this person outside of the skill sets required.
Right.
What am I looking for in this like if I've got a uh I'll go back to the finance to a controller,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I need somebody organized. I need somebody who's proficient in X software or that has a master's in accounting or whatever the skill set is. That's one thing, but the personality, am I looking for somebody who can't carry on a conversation that is just going to lock themselves in an office? Or I'm looking for somebody who knows how to communicate.
Yeah.
And I enjoy talking to, and then there's some common interest there that, it's not always talking about the numbers. Um, to me, I like having, there's a fine line. I don't like the office setting where everybody is talking nonstop, and everybody's, I think there's the water cooler talk is fine. But if I have to step outside my office and tell people to, you know, quiet down because I'm on a call and I can hear them talking right outside my door on a regular basis, then that gets annoying. So
Sure.
there's a fine balance between like do your job and have fun, with your colleagues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're talking field people versus, back office staff is two completely different scenarios, right? Your field people are usually loners. They're not typically working with someone else they're communicating to the office or to you, as their boss, but they're typically just interacting directly with your customers.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. I think you know my typical version of that, what you're talking about, of like just chatty Cathy kind of personalities versus serious people. We still have that. Like, you may think that you want all your salespeople to have the gift of gab, and that isn't necessarily wrong, but also you're trying to figure out if they're a serious person or not. That's more important than their gift of gab. And it's sort of, I go back to genuineness more than being able to filibuster, is what I
mhm.
call it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean,
So,
it's to me, I'm very judgmental on salespeople because it's not that's not my bag, right?
yeah.
And I can't stand salesy people.
Yep.
Say, the used car salesman type.
Yep.
And I think having met some of your team members that you've hired in the past, uh, I think you do a really good job of weeding those out. And it's more like just talk to them like a normal person. Don't go in there and be like, here, blah, I got to sell you this.
Yeah.
Um, like don't the salespeople that wanted to sale on on the first call, right? Those are the annoying ones. Everybody
Yep.
wants it, but if you're going in there solely focused on getting the sale versus creating a relationship, establishing a relationship, you're you're going to fail a whole lot more times than you succeed.
Yeah, I think it depends on the sale. To be frank, too. I mean, um, I think too many businesses conflate the two. Like everybody has car buying stories, right? I hate the
We
car
should go into
salesman.
some of yours.
Uh, well, like that's not a relationship sale. Unless I'm buying a fleet of cars, maybe that could be on some level a relationship sell that's a
Right,
reoccurring thing. But if I walk into a Honda dealership, I'm not looking for a buddy. I'm looking for a car.
right.
I don't need to tell you about all of my family and all of my business, excursions and all the nonsense. No, I'm just here for a transaction.
Yeah.
And so, I guess also being in sales my whole life, my whole professional career, I get pretty critical. I just shut down. So like I'm not looking for a friend there. I'm looking for a transaction.
So
Same like if
when
I'm buying shoes, that's another example I use all the time. Like I don't need a buddy that's in shoe sales. I just need shoes.
right, right, right. So when you know, all right, now the we've identified the best candidate. You've hired them. You bring them on. You onboard them. You get them, you introduced to the culture of your organization.
Yeah.
Um, w- Building loyalty, is huge, right? So what I see a lot of times with organizations is they've got some great talent in there, and they did a great job recruiting them. Now, how do we get them to buy into the mentality of this is for the employee to think this is my company, not this is your company? Um, because and then people get so afraid that they're going to get poached instead of developing, you know, what they have to ensure that they stay loyal.
Yeah.
You're going to have turnover, right? People are going to have opportunities that you may not be able to compete with, in terms of what's being offered, especially if you got really talented people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, one of the key elements is trying to establish those relationships so that there is a sense of loyalty to not only you as their manager or direct report, but also to the organization. Aligning the interest of, hey, the better this company does, the better I'm going to do. If I lose some inventory, that should really bother me because it's hurting the company. I know maybe I don't get penalized for it, but at the end of the day, take pride in your work, take pride in the
Yep.
company. um, and I think a lot of times that people struggle to endear their employees to the organization.
How do you think you do that?
Um, I do it by giving people. Uh, I like to manage laterally. I may be a C-suite executive that all these people report to, but I maintain, what quote unquote open door policy. Um, and the way I approach it is, hey, my way is the right way until you prove me wrong. Now, that doesn't mean I shut people down, I don't listen. Come to me, talk to me, and maybe I've been doing something wrong or not been doing it the most efficient way in the past. And giving people that voice to see like, hey, he's going to listen and he's actually going to use some of my ideas.
Yeah.
If you constantly just dictate, all right, go do this, go do that, go do this. I don't want to hear what you have to say. Just shut up and do your work. You're going to turn people off. If you give them a sense of ownership and by empowering them to help affect change in your company, um, I think that's a key element to building that loyalty. Because anybody can go be a worker bee anywhere else.
Yeah.
A factory line worker that is putting widgets together. Well, you don't need their input, right? We already have
Yep.
a factory line. We know exactly what this assembly line is supposed to do. Like we just need somebody pulling these levers and pushing these buttons. But
So to
it,
me, I'm hearing like the difference between a job mindset and career mindset, right?
somewhat, yeah. I mean, yeah, you get people that just show up to punch the clock,
Right.
and there's no loyalty there. You can tell when people are unhappy that you're working with, and it needs to be
Yep.
addressed. You need to say, hey, I see you. You know, you don't look like yourself. You're not smiling. Something bothering you. Give them the platform to express their concerns and hear their concerns. Right? It- One of the most frustrating things from an employer standpoint is dealing with the HR complaints, not HR in the sense of why people turn or put in complaints against Win for HR,
Yeah.
but more of the interoffice drama, all that stuff. But you have to entertain it in a sense of giving them a platform to air their grievances. That doesn't mean you have to say, I can't believe Joe did that to you. That's wrong. I'm going to have a talk with him. But almost become their business therapist, right? Like they're
Yeah.
where they can just sometimes they just want to bitch and gripe,
Yep.
um, and letting them get that out sometimes helps, and you can walk them through like, all right, you're getting sucked into this drama. Just do your work, right? Just
Yeah.
just stay busy. Don't get involved in the drama. Why are you participating in gossip that's only going to cause some kind of conflict,
Right.
um, as opposed to just focusing on the work and doing a better job and bettering yourself, building your skill sets.
Yeah. A couple things here. I think building loyalty, we can go in a lot of directions there, but I'll just say, like, for me, I've always found just being open and honest, and it's not dissimilar from what you're saying, but bring them into like what you're dealing with on a daily basis. Like, what are your struggles? What's the business up against?
Hmm.
Um, what's really good? What's not really good? And you sort of you dissolve that veil of uncertainty for these guys and let them be comfortable in where they are. I feel like that's always been a huge thing for me. I've been able to deliver a lot of bad news through my career, just in different situations, or like somebody's territory's getting cut or whatever. Something that should be taken as a pretty big negative. If you're just honest about what's going on and the way you're thinking about it, and have them understand that you're not coming after them. This is just sort of an unfortunate turn in some of the business, one way or another. I
Now,
feel like
are you talking about the people that get cut? Or are you talking about dealing with the
I'm
people
talking
who
about the people that get
remain?
cut.
Okay.
Yeah, like
So you're
having
talking
that.
about, I mean, what would, so
I mean
explain.
that's when loyalty shows up. Is I guess what I'm saying is, if you can go through bad situations with your guys and they still remain loyal, you've done something right.
So you're not talking about firing somebody in
No,
terms of cutting. You're just talking about a reduction in their sale in their geographic
it,
coverage area that's going
yeah,
to
either opportunity
negatively
or
impact
pay.
their pocket right off the rip.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Well, how do
And I think
you,
if you can get through those things on a positive foot, you've done something right in the loyalty department,
for sure, for sure.
right?
And I think too, companies, you go through, everybody knows the business cycles, right? The startups and the growth and all that. And in that cycle, a lot of times, as you continue to evolve as a company,
Mm-hmm.
um, you'll plateau out, and then maybe you overextended, maybe you grew too fast, too big, too fast, and now you've gotten out ahead of your skis, and you can't maintain the level of service that is fundamental to keeping customers happy.
Yep.
And so you've got to pare it back. So now
Or you don't have the
we got to,
systems to support what you
yeah,
had.
all
Yeah,
of it. The,
all
the
those
people,
things.
the systems, all right,
Yep.
yeah, go get, all the sales you want, and you're going to get paid your commission off all these sales. And then all of a sudden I show up with 1,000 orders that have to be filled today. And like, how are we going to do that? We can't do that. Well, you just told me to go sell. I did my
Right.
job. So now as an organization, that's where a lot of times ensuring that you're connected with your field team and communicating on a regular basis is so imperative because you don't want to just have them out there doing whatever it is they're doing and and get hit with surprises like that where you haven't prepared, your infrastructure can't support a giant load, or you can't, you know, there's a big downturn and it looks like he's not doing anything out there in the field. It's like you're not bringing any sales. What are you doing every day? Are you even working? Do you have another job? And there may be struggles that you could step in at, you know, step in and assist to help bolster that. But if the communication's not there,
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But in those times when you've overgrown or grown too fast, like I was saying, and you have to pare the operation down. So, you know, I've seen organizations and I've been part of organizations that we've grown, you know, like this, and then we've said, okay, this is too much. Like we're failing on across half of our clients because we can't service everybody. So we got half the people that are unhappy and the other half aren't getting the top tier service that we promised them or that we
Right.
expect to provide. So we've got to lop this off. Like we've got to contract,
Mm-hmm.
um, so that we can focus on our customer base. And once we have learned from that those missteps on the growth side or what it takes to service that level those infrastructure needs, then we can start to have a more controlled growth approach
Yes.
after we regroup. Going into the loyalty side, that's a lot of times going to impact people, right? So you're going to say, well, you know, we reduced our business by 50%. um, I don't have anything for you to do. Like, there's
Right.
just not enough business to be processed for me to justify. And they know it. They see it, right? As you
Yeah.
contract, they're like, um, I don't have anything to do today. What do you want me to do? And
Right.
you know, as much as it's not fun to let people go, you have to be unemotional about it from a business perspective and make those tough decisions. And it's never, you know, you never call somebody in, let them go, and they're like, ah, well, thanks, you know,
Right.
have a great weekend. It's usually always drama. It's not fair. It's why didn't you, you know, explain this better to me, or what did I do?
Yep.
You know, and even in the, you know, it's not you, it's me, you know, kind of breakups.
Right.
Those still don't go.
Yeah. It's still a bad day.
But what you have to do is for the remaining core, right? Because you go through a series of layoffs, you know, where you lay off 10 people, let's say, in a 50-man organization, and you haven't, what's difficult is you can't necessarily communicate what's getting ready to happen to the whole team prior to executing. Well, as soon as
Yeah.
you let go of that first person, they're going to start talking, right? They got to go clean the
Oh, they
desk
know. Yeah.
out. They
Yeah.
got to, and so all of a sudden it creates a panic. Like, well, are they going to let me go? Do I need to be looking for a job?
Right.
And so you have to address, you'll have those concerns. They'll talk. There's no clean way to do it because you can't, you know, unless you're an Amazon or FedEx or whoever that just sends out a massive email,
Right.
from their HR. It in a small to mid-sized business, it's a lot more difficult, and you have to be prepared to deal with that fallout and address it immediately. So in
Right.
instances where that's happened, where I've been part of organizations or I've seen organizations or advised organizations on, the key is for management to show a united front and say, look, the business is fine. Because that's when you start letting people go, they immediately think, well, the business is going under, right?
Yep.
Versus a purposeful restructuring to help
Mm-hmm.
make the company more, you know, stable. But bringing that core group that remains after the cuts in and saying, look, we want you guys here. That there is a reason that you're here and they're not,
Yep.
and really that's your opportunity to really build that loyalty and go, look, we want you.
Right.
Uh, and if we didn't, you wouldn't be here. And I think that gives you an opportunity for a fresh start and to rejuvenate some people because everybody's gonna be on edge until they know, like, all right, are y'all done with cuts? Or are you gonna let me go?
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I had one of my good buddies actually just dealt with this week, at the beginning of the week. But he's in construction. They had a new branch that they were trying to push. It was actually like in a different market, which was sort of made it nice and clean. Sort of to your point, there wasn't any ambiguity of bleed over or whatever. Like the company as a whole was in a bad situation, but this new branch that they tried to get going just was a lost loser. Like
Mhm.
it was just bleeding them dry, and so they had to make the cuts, and they just cut the whole thing. And I asked him how it went. Obviously, he was dreading having to let all these guys go, but also um, he goes, it was as fun as you think it would be. Obviously, being facetious there, but he was like, it was actually sort of a relief. Like they all knew that this wasn't going well. Like their setup wasn't great, and it was like, there was always like a monkey off the back. They could stop looking over their shoulder because they knew. And
Right.
that's one of the things I guess in my world where it is a lot about individual performance. We can get into how to hold your guys accountable, how to make sure they know where they are, and those kind of things. You're being honest about what their performance is. I would say, like, I haven't had a huge HR incident where I would fire someone on the spot.
Hmm.
And so with that, I would say one of the things I take pride in from my own leadership standpoint is I've never let someone go who didn't know it was coming.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
I think that speaks volumes as far as basically just making sure that you have a good candor with your guys, and like I said, they know where they are in your eyes. Um, they get honest feedback, and
Hmm.
so if it's individual performance, I know we're sort of stepping away from the first example of getting rid of a division kind of thing, or contracting your entire sales piece, but
But no, I
just
think I
if
think this is important from a team perspective of
yeah,
what you're addressing is how to fire somebody, how to once you've identified, look, I messed up. This guy's not the right person for this position. I got to cut ties. A lot of people hold on to that to the detriment of the company because they're like, well, I don't want to go through the effort of training somebody. This person already
it's
has some
painful
relationships, and
and
so I'll,
expensive.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So I think being able to how to fire somebody, how to fire people correctly, I think is
yeah,
what you're getting at, and I think that is truly important.
yeah. I think planning appropriately when you see trouble. I don't go ahead and start getting your ducks in a row. Um, you know, hope for the best but plan for the worst kind of mindset, I guess. But at the end of the day, we have to. If you see that there's trouble coming, go ahead and get out in front of it, and go ahead and set up candidates and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and going back to the very beginning of where we started with this thing, is like identify if you don't have the right butt in the right seat, if you don't have the right person there, identify your actual needs versus your wants, and be very clear about what you need to put in that seat.
Right.
There are certainly the wants are like the bonuses. Someone who's fun or someone who's whatever, but like at bare minimum, here's what our needs are, and be honest about why this last guy didn't work
Hmm.
for your
Yeah.
situation, right?
And,
And so
and
there's an honesty piece of that um, sometimes it's you as as a leader.
right, right, and that's where you really have to have that self-reflection, and that's where a lot of leaders or executives struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's not me, it's them,
Yeah,
and if you're consistently turning people over, then the only common thread there is you, right?
yeah,
So you need to be able to at least have a confidant, whether it's a business coach like Win and I do business coaching, just
yep,
for executives, um, as a business therapist, we say, to talk through situations and give it to you real to
Yeah.
where, I don't care if you don't like what I'm saying. I'm telling you the truth. I don't have any skin in the game in terms of, trying to get one employee hired over another, that I'm truly independent. That's a great, or if you have somebody internally that that you have the confidence that you can have these real conversations with, and but be open to somebody saying, look, when you're an idiot, like you
Yeah.
keep running these people off because you can't control your temper. Every time they make the littlest mistake, you fire somebody,
Yeah.
and being able to understand how people are perceiving you.
It's
um
huge.
yeah, and it
I would
takes
say
that.
go even further. Sorry to cut you off, but it goes even further than being open to it. I think you should be actively seeking that information out on a daily basis. Frankly,
Well,
like
when I say open, I mean actually listening, right? So
yeah,
even if you're
yeah,
active, even if you're actively seeking it out, actually absorbing it and
yes,
using the information, and not just let it go out one ear, in one ear and out the other, and not changing if
yes,
change is necessary,
right, yeah,
because egos get in the way, right? From a leadership standpoint.
yeah. There are some times when like, I would say I feel like I do a decent job of asking for feedback regularly, and
But do your employees, do the people you direct, have the confidence that they can really give you feedback? Or how do I feel there's a lot of employees are like, well, I'm not going to tell him he sucks at this or that he's doing a bad job,
yeah, that's
communicating, or because
uncomfortable,
I don't want to get yelled at. I'm not going to critique my boss.
right?
But you good leaders
I'd say
can
they set the tone,
yeah. And
right?
they
They
also
have
can really encourage that kind of communication to where, like, look, you don't have to tell me I suck, but you can, in those words, but you can tell me I suck using different words.
yeah, you know, let them know you care about them. Sort of create that safety of, hey, I'm not just getting fired over this, but they're they're trying to tell me something, right?
Hmm.
And um, if you can communicate that, usually you can get good feedback back from them,
Yeah.
right? And so it's sort of it's you set the environment. You are the leader, and so
Right.
if you have a cold demeanor about you where and it's not just like you're not my buddy. That's not what it is. It's if you're just going through the motions as well, you're not creating an environment for them to be open either. So you've got to be able to say the hard thing if you expect them to say the hard thing.
Hmm.
If that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
I can't come in and do a review with you, Drew, and say, okay, it was good and it was, just sort of go through your stats and we're hitting our marks and we're only missing this mark and you just keep cruising past it and it's like, all right, what do you have to say? Your reaction is you're going to stay in that same tone. You're going to stay in that same environment. You're like, yes, everything's good. Thank you for your time, and you're going to be
Right.
professional and you're going to walk away. Well, that's if you want real feedback, that can't be what it is. It has to
Yeah.
be real. It has to be genuine.
And I mean, what we've been talking about for, in the previous session, and now, it all boils down to, like, how do we make business, number one, fun
Mm-hmm.
again, right? Like the is the passion fizzled out, and why? And that's contagious, right? If you as an owner or an executive are not excited and not, just really motivated each and every day, that becomes contagious
Passionate,
to
right?
the people you direct, your employees. um, and so you really have to, well, evaluate these things, and that's what the we're talking about is, the leadership angle, the how to build your team, and all of it is geared towards having fun again with your business and being successful and growing. All these are
Yep.
key elements. These are just foundation level things that we're talking about. We're not even in the weeds about, you know,
Right.
detailed metrics and, targets and establishing goals and whatnot. We're just talking basic people skills.
Right. Well, and that's what it comes down to so much of the time, frankly. Like you can talk about all the metric stuff. I want to stick on this for a minute. I'll give you a couple of things. One is, speaking of feedback, is, and you said it well, of like being able to absorb it and actually hear what they're saying, right?
Hmm.
And I'm thinking back to some of these times where I've gotten good feedback one way or another, right? Sometimes you need to listen. Sometimes you need to share more because they're not understanding why you're making the moves you're making, right?
Right.
And I feel like most people's natural inclination is to not share what's actually going on in their business. I would encourage you, if at all possible, to share that, to share why you're making the moves you're making. And
Yeah.
they
Don't
still may not, they
don't
still
just
may
share
not
the
like it.
good stuff. Share the bad stuff too.
Yeah, yeah. Um, you get into some of the nonsense stuff. I'm gonna throw one other thing at you. You sort of brought up is like, bickering between employees.
The
So
drama.
my go-to move is to say, we're all grown-ups here. I'm not here to babysit. If you guys continue this, I will pick who is right and I will fire the other one. I feel sure that's an HR issue somewhere.
Yeah,
But
probably so. But
like I don't have time for that.
yeah,
And they shouldn't have time for that.
yeah, and that's almost like boredom. It's like the kid who acts out. He's acting
Yep.
out because he wants more attention, right?
Yep.
It's like negative attention is not good attention, especially in my business, right?
Yep.
If you're getting negative attention from me, you're only going to get that for so long before you get no attention, meaning your butt's
Yeah.
out the door.
Yep. Yep. And because I'm jumping around a little bit here, but also uh, as we're talking about being open and honest and having these dialogues with folks, I would say the one thing you got to look out for and be protective against is that you're not creating an environment of bitchiness.
Hmm.
Because some folks will just take that openness and go, "Oh,
Yeah,
I can use this as my vent session." Like, no, like be productive with this. Like this is like let them know what's a waste of your time and what's good information.
well, yeah. My rule when it comes to complaints
Mm-hmm.
are complaints or problems like that are being verbalized is that's fine. Everybody knows the issues, right?
Yep.
The problems and the issues are easy to identify. It's the solutions I'm looking for. So if you're coming to me with a problem or a complaint, then you better have one or two solutions at least
Yeah.
on how to rectify that, because otherwise you're just bitching,
Yeah.
right? You're part of the problem. You're not trying to make the problem better. Show your value to me by being a contributor and a problem solver.
So
Um,
I'm coming to you saying, here's the complaint. Susie is a bitch. Here's the
yep,
solution. Fire Susie.
yep. And I say, let's back it up right there. I need more details.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that make sure you're not getting that kind of nonsense,
Right,
right? Because
right,
if you're too buddy buddy, that's the kind of stuff you end up getting. So find your balance of, getting real information, going back and forth without getting into just sort of bitch mode and gossip mode.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Keeping good candor is a word that I always like, just because it has the sense of business to it. It's not just gossipy.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
Well, good. Well, I think we had a good discussion today, and probably had a good stopping point to cut it off for our next session.
love
Um,
it.
so we'll figure out what we're going to address next week, and if you guys have any feedback, any hey, why don't you guys what do you guys think about this? Let us know. Drop us a line, and we'll address that. So
Beautiful.
appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Catch you on the flip side.
There you go.